iRacing's news update is dropping today, and with this includes a huge rework of the iRacing GTP tire model. If you didn't know, last season they were basically way too fast to really be realistic. So what we're going to do now is we're going to jump in and I'm going to give you my first impressions on the new tire model. If you don't know, I am an avid GTP driver. I'd say it's my main car, completed in top split, Daytona special events, all that sort of stuff. If you haven't watched that video already, actually, I recommend you go watch that. Now, let's give these tires a whirl. So a big talking point about these tires have been especially the way they handle on cold tire conditions, the way we'll have to heat up the tires way more now, and how it'll probably take longer and how it'll probably be incredibly difficult. But actually driving them is going to be a different experience than anything else. Now, as you know, in real life, these cars are super sketchy on the outlaps. You're having to drive super slowly just to make sure that the car sort of gets around, whereas in iRacing last season, it was very much just about, you know, you basically pushed from the second you went onto the track, right? Maybe the first couple of corners were just a bit chill, you know, just be aware of the cold tires. But of what I've heard now, we're going to have to worry about this for multiple laps, which is way more realistic, because in real life, these cars are losing. Oh my god, yeah, I can see that. That's a lock-off. No, but basically, in real life, these cars are losing a lot. It's like 5 seconds on the outlap, if not more, just because of the cold tires. So to finally have this in iRacing and to sort of properly test it out, try out the new tire model as well, because essentially we have a different tire model and a different aero model. So the car should be more realistic to drive as well when you're at full speed compared to real life, and essentially not be too fast. There is no braking on this outlap. This is insane. Completely different to what we have before. Now, one thing I'm looking forward to seeing is how this will actually... Oh my god. That's crazy. No, I'm looking forward to seeing how this will actually affect the races we do, right? Because they have also updated the tire parameters and stuff in LMP2. Now, I don't personally know how much it has changed the LMP2, how much slower or faster the LMP2 is, but if it's like last season, you know, there might be a chance that some of the slower GTPs in the field might get overtaken by LMP2s on the race start and cause absolute chaos. It's gonna be interesting to see how that whole thing is gonna pan out. Now, I had a bit of wheel spin there. It's like they also added a bit more power to the GTPs. Let's see now on the second lap if the tires are a bit hotter. Big amount of understeer in the first corner. Still not braking optimally, especially that when you get sort of to that low speed, get close to the apex. A little bit of wheel spin here. And of course, the Ferrari is four-wheel drive, so probably not the car that's going to be the hardest of them all to at least keep on track. Let's just brake nice and early here. Make sure we get the car slowed down. It feels like, especially in the latter stages of the braking zone, where you're getting close to the apex, it doesn't feel like it brakes a lot. At high speeds, it feels alright with the downforce. But when you sort of get closer, it's sort of here. It doesn't slow down a lot once you actually get close to the apex. Alright, well on the second lap, it should be a bit better in terms of the tire heat, but not necessarily good. Let's try and... I'm going to just try and send it a bit here. Try and push it a bit. See if we can get some heat into these tires, or how many laps we're actually going to have cold tires for. Because essentially it's going to go on for multiple laps now, right? Instead of just being one lap. So what I'm also looking forward to seeing is how this might affect tire strategies, you know? Is it going to make sense to double stint in an endurance race? It's certainly not going to make sense to change tires anymore in an IMSA race, but also more about the endurance races, because for a long time we have not had tire changes be a strategy called really an endurance race. You've just been able to take tires every single stop because you could take them for free, basically. But now it comes at a cost. It comes at cold tires, scary outlaps, and a lot of time loss on the outlap. So I'm actually looking forward to seeing whether maybe double stinting might actually be a strategy. Depends on how the tire wears throughout a stint, whether that's changed a lot, and track tips, of course. Now, the track tips are quite hot as I'm in demo drive right now. It was still in downtime mode when I'm recording this, but we could still test the tires out properly. And my first impressions is, it's actually better than I thought it would be. It's not as oversteery as I thought it would be. I thought it would be very sketchy. But it kind of just feels like driving in the wet, you know? I thought it would snap very easily on you, or easier than it actually does. It does, of course, still snap when you're on cold tires. If you're a bit too aggressive on the throttle, but it's not necessarily the hardest thing to save. That's kind of one of the things I was maybe a little bit worried about with this tire model, is that, or with this cold tire model, is that, you know, if you had a little slide like that, you wouldn't be able to save it because you don't have the same seat of the pants feeling as you do in real life, right? When the car snaps, you need to have quick reactions, but it actually feels alright on that part. Like, it doesn't feel as deadly as I thought it would. It definitely doesn't. Of course, it's going to be harder to actually get the tires up to temperature than before. But it's not actually necessarily as bad as I thought it would be. Now, I want to test something out. I want to try and go back to the pits, just give it another run, and I want to do a couple out laps where I just do aggressive weaving to try and see if that heats up the tire quicker. So that's just what I'm going to try and just give a quick run. Alright. So here we are again. Back on the cold tires. Gonna give it a little bit more throttle here. To see if we... Oh my god, yeah. To try and see if we could provoke a little bit more tire heating. But clearly, if you give it a little bit too much throttle, it very easily snaps on you. So it's definitely about being very careful on the initial first couple corners, on the first lap even. And not just flooring it. That's what I was talking about. You know, if you're still just a little bit too aggressive on the outlap, you will still get those snaps, right? Which is essentially quite scary, but it's just something that we'll have to get used to. It is more realistic than it was before, where you could basically just go flat out. If you're looking at the real life outlaps, they are so sketchy as well. You can really see there are some scary moments in there. So I'm actually pretty happy about that we sort of have the more realistic cars. As fun as the old F1 GTP cars, as we call them, were to drive, the crazy fast ones. I personally actually kind of enjoyed them despite the unrealism. They handled amazingly. Despite that, I think it's really good that we've made some changes towards more realism, even though they might not be as grippy, as fast, as well handling. I think this is definitely way better with some more realism. Feels like they have more weight. Let's try and start doing some weaving here. We need to be careful because we can actually lose the car on the weaving as well. If I do a bit too aggressive weaving, which we don't want. But yeah, for sure it feels like the car has more weight than it was before. Before it felt very, very quick on direction changes, on throughout the corners, but certainly feels like it has way more weight here. Okay, let's try start some weaving out without doing too much. This could be interesting as well to see in the wet, which we're gonna get to try later once downtime is over. So make sure you're subscribed if you haven't. I want to try and do a race with these new cold tires and upload it later on as well, because I think that's where we're really gonna see the chaos, is when people just try to send it a bit too much and the race starts something like it. I don't have the rotation there. We just have to slow down so much. I even shifted down to third gear for a slight second there. Let's try and get here. Oh, no, absolutely no rotation. This is crazy. It's a lot of fun though. I mean, I'm liking this already. If you haven't tried already, if you are a GTP driver, or if you're not a GTP driver, I think you should go give these a try, especially if you're not, because I'm guessing the updated tire model they've done to the GTPs, they want to do to the GT3s and stuff like that as well. I'm not saying that the cold tires is going to be equally as crazy. The reason why cold tires and GTPs and LMP2s is the way it is because in real life they don't have tire warmers for these cars before the pit stop. So you essentially go on stone cold tires and have to get them up to temperature and up to heat, right? Which is essentially why the tires are so cold in GTPs. But in terms of the way the tire wears and stuff like that, that's also going to be brought to GT3s, I'm guessing, and GT4s and other cars like that in the future. So for sure, give this a try if you haven't already. You might like it, you might not. In whatever way this happens, or whatever happens with it, we're all going to need a lot of practice to just master these new tires and sort of actually get to drive them. Now, I did feel a little bit of difference from weaving, but it was not anything crazy. It's like, I think the time you lost, it felt a little bit better in terms of the turning just from weaving a bit. But, you know, it's just the first impressions. It could also just be me tripping. It will take a lot of time to test through the new tire model, and it's probably going to be... It's gonna be a lot of testing. I wouldn't be surprised if for the Sebring 12-hour there is going to be some sort of exploit of tire warming strategies or something that we're gonna find and that everybody's gonna be using or something like that. I wouldn't be surprised about that, but we'll have to see. Now, I hope you enjoyed this first impressions from me on the cold tires. I will be doing a race later, as I said, so make sure to subscribe if you haven't. I've been Marcus, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.